As a
divergence in upcase, that is a V pattern. It can also have a downshoot in adduction in a few cases. So the acquired cases present a little differently. They have a sudden onset. They have double vision and pain over the trochlear region, and the conditions associated could be very varied. In our country, cysticercosis could be an important cause. It could also be associated with trauma, the inflammatory processes like SLE and rheumatoid arthritis, and sometimes iatrogenically after a local anesthetic injection. So the investigations that could be done are the inflammatory markers in the blood like ESR, CRP, ANA-RA. Both CT and MRI can be done, and CT can, in cysticercosis, CT can show a nice enhancement of due to the scolex, and the same can be seen on ultrasound. The scolex is a high reflective echo. However, the MRI and the CT both can be normal despite an inflammatory pathology. It might not show enhancement and thickening near the trochlea or in the superior oblique muscle. What are the treatment options? Well, we usually do not intervene if the cases are mild or moderate. We treat the acquired Browns according to the cause. And surgical intervention is reserved for patients with high hyperopia or with an abnormal head posture, which is very disabling. As I said, masterly inactivity is one of the important management. And this is the patient of Dr. Sumita's, nicely chronicled, so I'm showing it to you. The child presented at 5 years of age with bilateral duanes. At 9, both the eyes showed a limited elevation in adduction. At 17, the elevation has slightly improved, and by 28, you can see the elevations have improved remarkably. So we actually did not do anything but follow up this patient. So masterly inactivity has been one of the modality because nearly 95% in a few studies, nearly 95% have shown regression over a period of time. Now, the exaggerated traction test can also be therapeutic along with its diagnostic values. And sometimes the anomalous band between the superior oblique tendon and trochlea are broken during the traction test, and thus we can free the superior oblique. Now, acquired Browns should be treated according to the cause. In cysticercosis, albendazole with steroids give good results. In non-specific inflammation, we can try oral NSAIDs, oral steroids, but injection of steroids into the trochlear area, both dexamethasone and triamcinolone, have given good results. Even though we should actually discuss with the patient that the ocular motility may not return to full despite a good improvement in their diplopia or head posture. So this is another patient with acquired Browns presented with diplopia and chin elevation, and you can see the right eye is not elevating in adduction, and post-treatment the head posture has remarkably improved, and the elevation in adduction has improved slight bit, but it has not returned back to normal. So the injection of steroids into the trochlear region, you can see the post-duction test is showing a tight oblique, superior oblique, and the injection into the trochlea is usually a triamcinolone or dexamethasone given in the superior nasal part of the orbit with a 30 gauge needle. If it's dexamethasone, it's difficult to give triamcinolone with this thin needle. So this is a dexamethasone being injected into the trochlear region. Now, surgery is usually, as I mentioned, reserved for patients with a large hypotropia or a large chin-up posture. The different surgeries that have been advocated are tenotomy, tenectomy, tendon expander, split tendon elongation, and trochlear surgery around the trochlear area. So tenotomy is nothing but cutting the superior oblique muscle, and posterior tenectomy is cutting a part of the posterior oblique muscle. Here you can see we are we are showing a posterior tenectomy. The disadvantage of tenotomy and tenectomy are the development of superior oblique palsy, and sometimes the patient can land up in down gaze, which is a little more troublesome than the disease itself. So largely the tenectomy has been given up. Surgeons in the past, when they were doing tenotomy, used to combine it with an inferior oblique recession to counter the superior oblique paresis, and the incidence of superior oblique paresis can be as high as 85% in tenotomy and 50% in posterior tenectomy. Now, coming to the second option, surgical option, it is the tendon elongation. As I had told you before, the tendon itself is tight, so it does not allow the globe to move up when the inferior oblique is contracting. So if we can actually cut the tendon and elongate it with something, then the tightness will be relieved. And we can do it with several methods. The suture method, the chicken suture it's called, is a suture which is kept between the two cut tendons. Usually a non-absorbable suture like Ethibond 60 Ethibond is used, and we put the sutures at a slack, usually 8 millimeters or 7 millimeters, depending on the force reduction test. And we cut the tendon between the two sutures. The approach can be either nasally. We prefer the nasal approach, but the nasal approach is a little more difficult because there are a lot of structures, and you can compromise the septum in that area. So here this is the nasal approach, and we have put the two sutures in a lag, and we are cutting the tendon in between the two sutures and lengthening it. Now, you can do this procedure in an adjustable fashion. After doing a force reduction test, you can check the tightness, and you can actually loosen or tighten the suture according to the results of your force reduction. Different other materials have been used to elongate this two tendons. The silicone band, which the retinal surgeons use, the 240 band has been used, fascia lata, palmaris longus, many things have been used. However, the disadvantage of all of them are that they are all external, they can all cause granuloma, they can all be extruded, especially the silicone tendons, and they can all cause a lot of adhesion around that area, which itself can give rise to a little limitation in that area. So it is gaining popularity now is split tendon lengthening. It is nothing but splitting the tendon in a Z fashion. So here we put two clamps and split the superior oblique tendon in the middle. And then we suture and cut the one half, and we put the suture in the other half and cut the other end and tie the two sutures to form a Z. The advantage of this procedure is there is no problem of extrusion. It is just one suture knot, so the granuloma is much lesser than the other modalities. The normal path and insertion of the superior oblique is maintained. It is a reversible and a titrable process. You can also operate around the trochlear area for acquired Browns, but however, any surgery around the trochlear area comes with its own risk of adhesion and scar formation in that area. So to summarize, most of the patients of Browns are asymptomatic, and there is a good chance of spontaneous resolution. So a conservative approach with a wait and watch policy is a good policy. Surgeries are reserved for patients with a large vertical deviation or a large abnormal head posture. The current surgeries which are preferred are tendon expanders with either a suture or a band, 240 band. Medical management can be done for the acquired Browns. Thank you.